Had always considered my duplex my sanctuary, a place where I could unwind, focus on my work, and enjoy a sense of independence that I had fought hard to maintain. I had saved for years to buy it, working extra shifts and being careful with every expense, determined to create a home that was entirely my own. I never imagined that one day, my own parents would walk into my life and make decisions about it without even consulting me. It started subtly, with my mom calling me one evening and mentioning that my brother's family might need a place soon. I assumed she meant some temporary arrangement, maybe a week or two until they found something suitable. I agreed, thinking it was a small favor I could accommodate. But then came the details, and my heart sank. My parents had apparently planned for my brother, his wife, and their 2 children to move into my duplex for an indefinite period, and they weren't talking about paying rent. According to them, my duplex was essentially theirs to allocate as they saw fit. When I asked why they hadn't consulted me, my mother said, "We thought you wouldn't mind. You know, it's family." My father added that it was important for everyone to stick together during these times. I was stunned. Family didn't mean taking away someone else's hard-earned home, I thought. I had worked tirelessly to build a life independent of their influence, and suddenly, it seemed like all my efforts were being dismissed as if they didn't matter. I decided to speak directly to my brother. I tried to explain that I had plans for the duplex, that I couldn't just hand it over indefinitely, and that having them move in without any agreement about rent or responsibilities wasn't fair. I expected at least a little understanding. Instead, he laughed it off, saying, "Don't worry about it, it's family. You'll figure it out." That response felt like a punch to the gut. The word, family, had been weaponized to justify a complete disregard for my autonomy. The next few days were a whirlwind of tension. My parents started organizing the move, measuring rooms, and deciding where each piece of furniture would go. They even made a list of household chores they expected my brother's family to take over. I kept telling myself to stay calm, to reason with them, but every conversation ended in frustration. It felt like my boundaries were invisible, like my voice didn't count in a home I had worked so hard to secure. I realized I needed to set firm limits. I arranged a family meeting and spoke up with as much composure as I could muster. I explained my financial responsibilities, the mortgage, the bills, and how their plan would put me under enormous stress. I told them that I loved my brother and his children, but that love did not obligate me to sacrifice my stability or my home. My words hung in the air, and for a moment, I saw surprise on their faces. I wasn't sure if it was because I was finally asserting myself or because they genuinely didn't consider the consequences of their actions. Negotiations began, but they were uncomfortable. My parents suggested that perhaps I could live in part of the duplex while the rest was theirs. I explained that I needed the entire place for my life to function, that splitting it would create chaos and strain in every aspect. My brother tried to argue that it would be temporary, that it wouldn't be for long. I had learned by now that temporary, in my family's language often meant months, sometimes years. I had to be firm. Finally, I proposed an alternative. I offered to help them find a rental nearby, to assist financially if necessary, and to even support with moving logistics. I wanted to show that I was still supportive as a family member, but I would not compromise my home or financial security. My parents hesitated, and my brother looked disappointed, but eventually, they agreed to explore other options. Looking back, I realized how important it was to assert my boundaries. My duplex was more than just a property, it was a symbol of my independence and hard work. Letting my parents dictate its use would have sent the wrong message about my autonomy and self-respect. Family loyalty is important, but it should never come at the expense of your own well-being. In the end, my brother found another place to stay, and my parents, I think, finally understood that their good intentions couldn't override my life. The experience taught me that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Family may try to impose their plans, but at the end of the day, your home, your work, and your peace of mind are yours to protect. I still love my family, but now I know that love doesn't mean surrendering everything. It means finding balance, setting boundaries, and making sure that kindness doesn't come at the expense of your own hard-earned life. When I first purchased my duplex, I felt a sense of pride that is hard to describe. It wasn't just about owning property, it was about independence, a life built with my own effort and discipline. Every month, I diligently paid the mortgage, managed utility bills, and maintained the property because I wanted it to be a safe and comfortable space for myself. I never imagined that one day, my own family would assume they had the right to live there without contributing, expecting me to shoulder the entire financial burden. The situation began subtly, with offhand comments from my parents about how my brother's family might need somewhere to stay. At first, I didn't take it seriously. I thought maybe it would be a short visit, a week or two while they sorted things out. But when I asked for specifics, I realized they were talking about moving in permanently, with no discussion of rent or bills. My parents treated it as if it were obvious that I should welcome them with open arms and cover all expenses. I was stunned, not just by the proposal, but by the complete lack of regard for my financial and personal boundaries. I tried to reason with my parents, explaining that the duplex was my home and that I had responsibilities tied to it. I reminded them that the mortgage, utilities, maintenance, and property taxes were my obligation, and adding another family would drastically increase my financial strain. They waved it off, insisting that family sticks together and that I should not make things difficult for my brother. I felt cornered, as if my hard work and financial planning meant nothing in the face of their version of familial loyalty. When I spoke with my brother, I tried to approach the situation diplomatically. I explained that living in the duplex rent-free while I paid all the bills was unfair and unsustainable. I emphasized that it wasn't about money alone, but about respect and responsibility. He laughed it off, saying, "It's family. Don't worry about it." That casual dismissal cut deep. Family, as it turned out, could be conveniently redefined to suit someone else's convenience, even if it meant disregarding your hard work. The next few days were emotionally exhausting. My parents began organizing the move, planning furniture arrangements, and discussing daily routines as if I weren't even living there. They expected me to handle the bills and manage the household logistics while my brother's family took up residence. It became clear that they assumed I would comply without protest. I realized that if I didn't set clear boundaries, I would not only lose control of my home but also become financially overextended and emotionally drained. I decided it was time to be firm. I called a family meeting and laid everything out. I explained the full cost of the duplex, including the mortgage, utilities, insurance, and upkeep. I pointed out that I had planned my life around these expenses and that absorbing additional costs without any contribution was impossible. I tried to make them understand that my willingness to support family had limits and that fairness required shared responsibility. For the first time, I voiced my feelings without softening my words, and for a moment, I could see the surprise in their faces. Perhaps they had assumed I would comply without question, or perhaps they had never considered the practical consequences of their plan. Negotiations were tense. My parents suggested partial arrangements, like dividing the duplex or letting them stay temporarily. I explained that partial occupancy would create chaos and that temporary stays often extended indefinitely. My brother argued that it would only be for a little while, but I knew from experience that vague promises rarely materialize as intended. I realized that without firm boundaries, my financial security and peace of mind would be compromised. Finally, I proposed a solution that was fair but uncompromising. I offered to help them find a nearby rental and even assist financially if necessary, but under no circumstances would I let them live in my duplex rent-free while I covered all expenses. I wanted to show that my refusal wasn't about resentment or selfishness, but about responsibility, fairness, and maintaining my home. My parents hesitated, and my brother looked disappointed, but ultimately, they had no choice but to explore other options. Reflecting on the experience, I realized how crucial it is to stand up for yourself, even when family pressures are intense. My duplex represented more than a physical space. It symbolized my independence, my effort, and my right to make decisions about my life. Allowing anyone to override that would have undermined all I had worked for. I learned that being kind and supportive as a family member doesn't mean surrendering your rights or financial stability. In the end, my brother found another place to stay, and my parents seemed to understand, at least partially, that their expectations had been unreasonable. The experience taught me that asserting boundaries is not selfish, it is essential for protecting one's independence and well-being. Family may make demands, but your home and your responsibilities are yours to protect. I still care deeply about my family, but I now know that love and support have limits. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish your compassion, it strengthens your sense of self and ensures that helping others doesn't come at the cost of your own stability. My duplex remains my home, my sanctuary, and a testament to the fact that even in the face of family pressure, standing firm is sometimes the only way to protect what truly matters.